For today's recipes, I challenged myself to come up with some pretty low ingredient meals, so dishes that you don't necessarily need a fully stocked fridge for. So I just tried using up what I had. You know, I worked with leftovers and pantry ingredients and got a little bit of help from my freezer as well. Before we get into the main recipes, here's a list that I've compiled with some more general ideas for what you can make in those situations. So you could either go for these classic ideas or give any of the following recipes a try. The first recipe is a sort of 2-in-1, I would say. It is a wrap consisting of crispy tofu and this roasted pepper peanut sauce that is just too good. Let's make the sauce right away. In a blender or a food processor, simply blend up jarred, grilled red pepper, some natural peanut butter, soy sauce, any additional spices that you might want to add, plus some unsweetened non-dairy milk or even water. If you've got some peppers, you could also go ahead and roast them yourself. You would then obviously have an extra step, but it's super easy. Onto the crispy tofu, cut a block of tofu into bite-sized pieces. Transfer that to a medium bowl and then add some all-purpose flour and some salt and spices. Mix it all up so that the tofu is evenly coated. You can even get your hands in there. Then bring a medium to large skillet with some oil to medium heat. Cook the tofu until it is golden brown, shaking the pan every once in a while or flipping the pieces as it's cooking. The one and only fresh ingredient I decided to add was some iceberg lettuce, so I chopped that up and then assembled the wraps. To the center of my tortilla, I added a couple teaspoons of the red pepper sauce first, then about a third of the tofu chunks, 1 to 2 handfuls of the chopped lettuce, some sunflower seeds. Oh, and some basil as well. There was this beautiful pot of fresh basil in the kitchen, and so I had to add some. Then I would always just recommend that you toast the wrap inside the pan that you use to cook the tofu in. For decoration purposes, I ended up adding lots more of the sauce on top, tiny bit of cress as well, so it was pretty but messy for sure. Moving on to this super simple but quite fancy walnut pasta. Bring a small to medium sized pot with water and salt up to a boil. In the meantime, go ahead and mince some garlic as well as a handful of walnuts. Grab a second small to medium pan, add some cold vegan butter to that, the garlic, walnuts, and some chili flakes. Let the walnuts cook and become golden brown for about 4 minutes. At some point the water should be boiling, so add that pasta. Then add some white wine. Bring everything up to a boil, let it all simmer for about 2 minutes. And then turn the heat to medium-low and add some of the pasta water. Add the cooked and drained pasta next. Maybe some fresh or frozen parsley. I also added some homemade vegan parmesan that I found in my fridge. It is simply just blended nuts, salt, nutritional yeast, garlic, and onion powder. If the pasta is not saucy enough for you, you could also add some more reserved pasta water or some unsweetened non-dairy milk or even some more vegan butter. This is a, in quotation marks, cheesy bacon sandwich consisting of random leftovers that I had on hand, but it was so good that I'm definitely gonna make this again. First, I gave some carrot noodles a quick pickle. That meant that I cut a carrot into strips using a vegetable peeler. I then transferred that to a bowl and added some white wine vinegar, some salt, and a bit of maple syrup. And then I covered everything in some hot water and just let that sit while I prepared the bacon, so the carrots had a chance to pickle for like 10 minutes. To make the faux bacon, line a baking sheet with parchment paper and preheat the oven to 190 degrees Celsius. My rice paper bacon recipe has evolved quite a bit. For this one in particular, I tried doing a double layer. combine some vegan barbecue sauce, yellow mustard, white wine vinegar, and a bit of vegetable oil. Grab a sheet of rice paper, let it soak in some room temperature water for just a few seconds, and then you grab some kitchen scissors and cut it into 3 to 4 centimeter wide bacon strips. That's gonna be layer number 1. Brush the strips with about half the marinade. And now to some, I also added a bit of vegan pizza cheese. And then I let another piece of rice paper soak in water for a few seconds and cut it into strips. Place that over the first layers. Lastly, I covered everything in the remaining marinade. Yeah, make sure to brush over the edges as well. Now this goes into the oven for 6 to 8 minutes. I toasted up some bread in the meantime that I got from my freezer. And then I spread that with a bit of leftover Vega sour cream. You could do hummus or like vegan mayonnaise. The ones filled with cheese are obviously not going to be crispy bacon, but it's so good. I'd use the Violife vegan mozzarella. It's pretty mild in flavor, but it melts beautifully. If I had some tofu on hand, I would have probably added like a slice of just plain tofu to this, just to make it a bit more filling. And you know what else to pair this with than with an iced matcha? This next meal is a super cozy one. It is perhaps a bit more basic compared to the other recipes in this video, but honestly, it was also one of the most satisfying ones. It's this lentil and sweet potato taco chili. First things first, I chopped up a small carrot and the white part of a spring onion. I set aside the green part of the onion for serving. I sauteed both the carrot and the onion in a bit of olive oil for about 5 minutes over medium heat. And in the meantime, I chopped up some garlic. Then I added that to the pot as well, together with some chili flakes and a whole bunch of other spices. Cumin, black pepper, paprika, smoked paprika, coriander. I gave all that a quick mix. And then added tomato puree, tomato paste to this, some soy sauce, and a bit of maple syrup. Next time I would add a bit less maple syrup. I think 1 to 2 teaspoons is enough, but it was still really good. I mixed that in and then gave this another 1 to 2 minutes of cooking before pouring in some passata. Also added some vegetable broth here and a handful of cashews. Boiled cashews are so good. Let everything simmer over medium for a good 6 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, I peeled and cut up a sweet potato, chopping that into small pieces, adding that to the saucepan as well, and then letting everything simmer for another 10 minutes or until the potato was tender. Last but not least, I also added a can of drained brown lentils. These are already cooked, so I didn't feel the need to let everything simmer even longer. I squeezed over some lime juice, added some tortilla chips for a bit of crunch, some spring onion, a lime because I thought it looked cute, but then it was kind of impractically sitting in my soup. Some bagel seasoning, you guys know. Oh, and also some more of that vegan cheese. Those are all optional add-ins, of course, though the lime is pretty essential, I would say. Last but not least, I've got a sweet meal for you, Brazilian tapioca. The process of making these is unlike any other recipe I've tried before. First, measure out some tapioca starch. Add the water, 1 tablespoon at a time, not all at once. That was my first mistake. You add the water, mix it in with your hand. It's gonna feel weird, but just gradually keep working in more and more water until the mixture is made up of lots and lots of small clumps. And when you pinch those clumps together, they should stick. this is a sort of recipe that may require a couple tries to really get a feel for the consistency. In case you accidentally added too much water, no worries, you can balance that out by adding some more starch. Grab a second bowl that's maybe slightly bigger than mine, and then you also need a fine strainer, and then you add the tapioca clumps and sift them through the second bowl, pressing them down with a spoon, so you're left with something that looks kind of like desiccated coconut. Add a pinch of salt, and if you want, a few tablespoons of actual desiccated coconut. Now on to shaping the pancake. Grab a non-stick skillet, turn the heat to medium, and even while it's not fully hot yet, you can already start adding half the mixture from the bowl. And using the back of a spoon or spatula, flatten out this mixture into a circle-esque shape. Make sure there aren't any holes, and press down tightly, getting this to be as thin as possible without breaking. Allow this to cook for about 1 minute, and then add your fillings to the center of the circle. Try lifting one of the edges, and once that is possible, lift it up fully and fold it over the filling. Then let it continue to toast for about 2 minutes, and then take it off the heat. So one side is more cooked than the other, but that's okay. Keep in mind though that I'm still very much a noob when it comes to tapioca, so if you've got some extra tips, please let me know in the comments. I topped everything off with some more yogurt, banana, and store-bought chocolate sauce. Frozen berries would be amazing here. Frozen mango, frozen pineapple, or even canned pineapple. Why not? Even though it can be a bit dry on the outside, I just love the texture of the tapioca on the inside. It's so chewy and it reminds me of rice cakes, and it's really good. And yeah, that would be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed these recipes. Maybe you're gonna try some of them. If that's the case, then let me know how that goes for you. Feel free to follow me over on Instagram. I sometimes post stuff on there when I remember that I have an Instagram account. I'll talk to you very soon, and I'm sending you a lot of love. Until next time, bye!